From 3 News Now and the Omaha World-Herald, this is Omaha Sunday Morning with Jennifer Griswold.
This week on Omaha Sunday Morning, it was a close primary race. The candidates, Robert F. Kennedy, Vice President Hubert Humphrey, and Senator Eugene McCarthy. The year was 1968, and Nebraska played an important role. Coming up, we talk with a Kennedy staffer who changed the campaign game in the Good Life state. Plus, a popular trail for cyclists is sporting new signs, but it's not a welcomed sight. Where a detour is now in place and why one town is hoping it won't deter cyclists from stopping by for a visit. Good morning and thanks for joining us this Sunday. I'm Jennifer Griswold. In 2009, an Avoca, Iowa man faced a situation no parent should have to face. His young son, who had been battling cancer, passed away. While trying to put the pieces back together, he turned to running, and running turned into a new mission. We first introduced you to Rick Zortman in January, and he's been on the move ever since. We went back to Avoca, where he still laces up his shoes and hits the streets, now focused on finding a small way to help others dealing with the difficult diagnosis or the unimaginable grief of losing a child.
Running was always there, and so it was my way of communicating with Armstrong. It was my time.
Many people run to clear their minds. Rick Zortman is constantly thinking as his feet hit the ground.
I've ran every letter in the alphabet. It took me a while to get Q, but I finally got Q.
He doesn't care about distance or speed. His steps follow a mapped path.
352 names so far.
Sheets of requested names.
Rit, Marilyn, Abel.
Many of them victims of pediatric cancer.
4, 5. So when my son got sick and he passed away, I didn't know what I was going to do.
Zortman's son Armstrong was a vivacious 3-year-old, a little boy who loved to run. A seizure led to the devastating discovery of brain cancer. And these words from a doctor.
I'm going to be blunt with you. You have 3 to 6 months left.
Months later, April 2009, Armstrong had become very sick. Another seizure sent him to the hospital.
By that time, the nurse had come in and said, he had passed away.
Zortman took that grief and turned to running.
It was my way of being like, okay, my time's with you. Let's have a little one-on-one conversation.
Just last year, he got a new idea. Spell out words with a running app that tracks his route.
September 1st came, Childhood Cancer Awareness Month. First name, out of the box, it's going to be Armstrong.
Why stop there?
So while I'm running Armstrong's name, I'm thinking, I wonder how I can do this for other kids.
A human Etch-a-Sketch. Certain names work better horizontally, others diagonally. Some children are still fighting. Others won't have their names said out loud as often as they should. He wants to create a community.
My hope is that people realize that childhood cancer is a thing and that people have gone through it.
By sharing the names on social media, he's mapping a path for parents who feel lost. By connecting them, raising awareness, and encouraging donations to fight pediatric cancer.
To be able to run and then to be able to keep going has meant a lot to me.
There is no guaranteed route in life, but we can plan our steps so we reach others.
And this weekend, he ran the St. Jude Half Marathon in Nashville. He's passionate about that cause. We have ways you can donate to that, as well as how to submit a name for him to run on our website, 3newsnow.com. If running isn't your speed, maybe plogging could be. It's a strange sounding workout trend, but it's starting to catch on right here in Omaha. Ploggers are really just joggers on a mission to pick up litter that's piling up on nature trails or in city parks. They bring plastic bags and gloves on their jog and stop when they see a piece of garbage to clean it up. Too fast? You could slow down and go for a plock if you prefer. That's walking, of course. Keep Omaha Beautiful gives out pickup supplies for free. You just have to call their office and ask. A trip across Nebraska can seem slow going. Now imagine making it in 1968 via a Union Pacific train. In the height of a presidential primary that saw Robert F. Kennedy pitted against Vice President Hubert Humphrey and Senator Eugene McCarthy, Nebraska became crucial as candidates worked to win over voters in hopes of making the big ticket. For RFK, Nebraska's visit turned into an 11-stop tour, an idea dreamed up by a local woman on his campaign. Omaha World-Herald visual journalist Julia Nagy sat down with the staffer who may have single-handedly helped RFK win the Nebraska primary.
We were in Edie Joe's living room, and I remember sitting on the couch was Irene and Phil, and I think Pat and Jan. She had a very long couch, and we were just kind of in a circle. We were just really trying to figure out what could we do to gather people, and we did have a number of campaign stops. I mean, Robert Kennedy was at the university quite a few times, and I'd drive down from Lincoln and meet the plane and that sort of thing. But it was just, I don't know, it just popped in my head when he said, we don't have rodeos, we don't have fairs. And I thought, well, we have a train. We could go through the whole state. There was kind of silence, and then Phil looked at me and said, Marianne, you may have just elected the next president of the United States. And then everybody thought, well, we need to vote too. And so we voted 1 to 10. Is it a good idea? And I got a 10. It was a wonderful way to, you know, kind of revitalize history and meet so many people. I mean, as we went through the states, even if we didn't stop in the small towns, there'd be people alongside the roads with signs. It was fun. It was exciting. We were just kind of, people were getting on and off at every stop. If there was a Democratic chairman for that county, then they would get on, ride to the next stop, and have somebody pick them up. It was long, and I'm sure we got tired, but my goodness, I was in my 20s. Yeah, it was everybody had a wonderful time.
Photos, great photos there. The Saturday campaign event stopped in Kimball, Sidney, Ogallala, North Platte, Lexington, Kearney, Grand Island, Columbus, Schuyler, and Fremont before arriving in Omaha for a rally at the City Auditorium. Golden Retrievers are one of the most popular dog breeds in the country, but there's another high ranking for these pups that is not good. How Omaha dog owners are joining others across the country in a massive study to find out why the dogs have a high rate of cancer. When Omaha Sunday Morning continues. They are smart and playful, considered a great family dog. That's probably why Golden Retrievers are the 3rd most popular dog breed in America. But sadly, they also have one of the highest rates of canine cancer. A massive $30 million study is underway looking at why their cancer rates are so high. 3 News Now reporter Lindsay Thies breaks down the study and shows us how Nebraska dogs are lending a paw.
Well, Adrian will be 5 in September, and these puppies are 11 days old. So they're big chunky monkeys. Their eyes will be opening soon.
For Christine Brandt, there's no better breed of dog than a Golden Retriever.
They just have the most sweet, endearing, caring, loving temperament.
The breed is one of the most popular in the country, but there's another scale that the dogs rate high on that Brandt sadly knows all too well about.
This is Callie, and this was my dog that had hemangiosarcoma.
The cancer rate in Golden Retrievers is about 60%, but dog owners like Brandt are trying to find answers, one pup at a time. Brandt is among hundreds across the country participating in the largest study of its kind.
How you doing?
In total, vets are studying 3,044 Golden Retrievers. 11 of them are right here from Omaha. They take hair and nail samples.
They're looking for environmental stuff that the dogs might be exposed to that would concentrate in the nails.
Collect blood and all sorts of data.
Participants agree to be involved throughout the life of their animal, and they send in tons of information along with their veterinarians. Things like the type of water that their dogs are drinking from, food that they eat, even the number of litters that their animal might have.
You ready? Search.
Across town, Karen Stevens works with her spunky dog, Keegan.
Alert. Nice.
She signed him up for this study, too, after also having a dog earlier in life with cancer.
This is my Dalton.
The Morris Animal Foundation, a nonprofit specializing in veterinary science, is behind all this research. Private donations and sponsors pay for it all. Dog owners get compensated for some of their routine tests, but most of the veterinarians and dog owners just donate their time, Morris says. As for Omaha dog owners, Karen Stevens says it's the least that she could do. She can't wait to see what comes from it.
Some answers would be great. I can't help to think, too, that if we get some answers for our pets, then maybe some of that information can filter over to us as humans.
And they are great dogs. The Morris Foundation says they don't need to add any new participants at this time. Right now, they are still mostly in the data collection phase. Fontenelle Forest Raptor Recovery has treated nearly 24 eagles so far this year. Only 2 have survived. One of those rehabilitated eagles was released a few days ago at Pioneer Trails Recreation Area, just north of Aurora, Nebraska. Here's the video. She was originally found near the park on March 2nd with no apparent injury, but she was not able to fly. The eagle had lead poisoning, and over the past 7 weeks, experts at the Raptor Recovery nursed her back to health. There's something eye-catching but also comforting and maybe a little nostalgic about the bright pink or electric blue of a neon sign. A throwback to old diners that welcomed in people from all walks of life. And it seems neon is making a comeback, popping up at Omaha restaurants and bars all around town. Many of the signs the creation of one woman who's been drawn to the light for decades. Omaha World-Herald visual journalist Julia Nagy has her story.
It's always, even after all this time, it's really being able to make something with all perfect bends. Like everything on it is perfect, it ends up beautiful, and you get to light it and see it, and it's just exactly what you wanted it to look like. And I get to be creative, and I get to work with my hands, and I get to see my stuff around town. It's just, I like everything about it. It draws you in, it makes you look. You want to know what it is or what it says. It's alive, it's a glowing gas. It's inviting. I love a really challenging sign. I just love to do something challenging and have it come out really nice. I'm probably the only one that notices if it came out perfect or not, but it's important to me, so.
Such a cool process. She works out of a small studio inside Signworks off 47th and F. She makes new signs for businesses and private clients. She also restores old, broken pieces of neon. It's a popular trail for cyclists looking to get out of the city and enjoy nature, but this spring, orange detour signs are popping up. Why crews are doing construction on the Wabash Trace and why one small town is keeping a close eye on the progress. It's a popular nature trail for cyclists looking to trade in the hustle and the bustle of the city for a scenic ride through the country. However, this summer, cyclists will hit a roadblock. Work on a bridge on Highway 34 just outside the town of Melbourne will affect the Trace. A detour is now in place. For a town that sees a lot of bike traffic, a detour is concerning. Omaha World-Herald visual journalist Megan McGill explains the possible impact on businesses.
It's a dirt path lined with trees in the spring sunshine that runs 63 miles. But the Wabash Trace brings more than just cyclists, it brings money.
Our weekend traffic is very big from the Trace.
Alicia Hagan owns a cafe in Melbourne, Iowa. She says 40 to 50% of her customers come from the bike trail in the spring and summer months. But Hagan fears that the construction blocking the trail under the U.S. Highway 34 bridge will hinder cyclists and therefore her business.
When I found out where it was, I was like, oh my gosh, like this is not good.
For cyclists, the construction may just mean an alternate route, but it's not that easy for local businesses here in Melbourne, Iowa, who depend on the money that the bike trail brings in.
I mean, it could be detrimental to our business.
Hagan says her neighbor C&M's Cafe also relies heavily on Trace clientele.
It's a big deal to the whole town if we don't have them here.
The section of the Wabash Trail under the bridge will be closed as crews replace it with a north-south concrete tunnel. The project is expected to be finished in 120 to 130 days, numbers that Hagan and other businesses don't find comfort in.
That's a long time. I mean, what is that, 4 or 5 months? Could be 6 months. That's a long time.
The The Wabash Trace does have a Facebook page, and officials are posting updates about the construction detour there. Back here in Nebraska, a 22-acre plot of land and pond near the Platte River is an oasis of native flora, mature woodlands, and plenty of wildlife. And thanks to the Sisters of Mercy, it will forever stay that way. The Sisters granted a conservation easement to the Nebraska Land Trust to keep the land from ever being developed. Omaha World-Herald visual journalist Chris Makian took a walk around the unspoiled shoreline with the sisters who worked to protect it.
Here's the Platte. It's one of my favorite places. This is a place that's quiet, and we've always said it speaks to us of God's goodness, and I think that's true. And if you just walk around, you see all these things out here. Because we're on the Platte, it's a migration route for birds. So we get lots of birds here, lots of migrating birds. Through this conservation easement, we're saving all of this. We're saving it for forever. The conservation easement is a legal arrangement that we have made with a group called the Nebraska Land Trust. They have their offices in Lincoln, and what we have done is ask them to ensure that this is left undisturbed forever. So if we ever sell this property, any future landowner cannot do certain things here. They can't put in an ATV trail. They can't take water out of the river or out of the pond here and sell it. They can't log this area. It's got to remain the way it is, with a primary emphasis on wildlife habitat. This is truly home to me.
The Land Trust sometimes pays landowners for easements. The sisters donated this one. An Iowa urologist finds himself on the other side of the medical story. He became a patient with a dire diagnosis. His organs had begun to fail. His story, nothing short of remarkable. And as Lindsay Thies reports, this miracle doc is now on a mission.
Temperature here? Yeah, just a little bit of water.
Dr. Mick Schaefer hasn't been home to Ottumwa, Iowa since July.
July 27th, I had put in a full day at the office, had seen patients, had done surgery. Came home, was falling asleep in my chair. All of a sudden I said to my wife, turn off the TV, and she did. And I said, call 911, I'm having horrible chest pain, I'm having a heart attack.
From a Des Moines hospital, he was flown to Nebraska Medicine.
When Mick first came here, he was critically ill. You know, his lungs had failed, his kidneys had failed, his liver had failed, and his heart obviously had failed as well.
There, modern medicine kept him alive, including 2 LVADs, an implanted mechanical heart that helped Dr. Schaefer's other organs heal while he waited for a transplant. He could be on the list for 30 days. During this time, Dr. Schaefer says he had many near-death experiences. The staff in the ICU nicknamed him Miracle Man. He had a 1 in 100,000 chance of living. Then, with only 5 hours left on the list, Dr. Schaefer got word that he had a donor heart.
I knew after that God had a purpose for me. He wasn't going to let me go. Kind of surprised myself with what I can do.
Good.
Yeah.
And that purpose? Well, a few things. Family, friends, loved ones, of course. And to say thank you to the doctors and entire medical team, Schaefer says. But it's also about sharing his story, encouraging more people to donate. Most of all, for the former self-professed workaholic type A doctor, it's about the way he looks at life.
There's another way to go about living your life, treating people just as kind as possible, helping other people in some different way than I did before. And again, I don't know what it is, but I'm going to do it.
And this is cool. Dr. Schaefer is a huge Cubs fan, and while he was waiting for a heart, Pat Hughes, who does radio play-by-play for the Chicago Cubs, sent Dr. Schaefer a letter. The day he found out he was getting a heart, Dr. Schaefer said he had that letter in his hand for good luck. We'll be right back with more Omaha Sunday Morning after this break. They make you chuckle, chat, even contemplate an issue you may have once ignored. But just where does an editorial cartoonist get an idea that really connects with readers? The Omaha World-Herald Jeff Katurba shows us.
I'm Jeff Katurba. I am the editorial cartoonist for the Omaha World-Herald. People often ask me, where do you get your ideas? Well, like money, cartoon ideas don't grow on trees. It's a funny question when you think about it. Where do you get your ideas? Not how. It's almost like there's an idea store where I can go pick out my latest cartoon. Ah, if only it were that easy. The truth is, I have to work at it very hard. I read. The World-Herald, both in print and online, not to mention other news sources too. I also listen in on conversations to get a sense of what people are talking about. So watch what you say. And then I sketch and sketch and sketch. And I also pull out my hair. And then, voila, the idea arrives. Anyway, I'm inspired by what's current and what folks are talking about. Like this cartoon, which came out after Yonkers department stores announced it would soon be going out of business. Here, a mom is bummed out that her favorite store is closing. So, to cheer her up, her daughter suggests a little retail therapy online. And while Yonkers didn't sell cartoon ideas, they did sell lots of items I would buy, like shoes and clothes. Yonkers was one of my favorite stores. But unfortunately, they're not the only brick and mortar store that's been impacted by this trend of online shopping. What's this? It's a delivery from Amazon. What do you know? It's my next cartoon idea.
That's all for this week. Thanks for watching Omaha Sunday Morning.